Okay. I am hoping that everything on here is going to be understandable, etc. Let me just give you a little background. We're going to be looking at Masada. Masada was built by Herod the Great. So we know Herod as the killer of all of the babies. When Jesus was born in Bethlehem, Herod is the one that would have been, quote, fulfilling the prophecy of all the weeping of the children of the daughters of Jerusalem. Herod, despite his evil doings, that guy was a master builder. He was an awesome builder. He built Masada. You remember, oh my, I think we've been doing this for almost 6 months. So this has been a long time ago. We looked at Caesarea Maritime, the Caesarea on the ocean, on the sea. He's the one that built that people have described as a mini Rome. He had several fortresses. This is one of 3 fortresses because he was paranoid. He figured that all of his Jewish subjects hated him and they were going to try to kill him. And he wanted to have several places he could escape to. And this is one of them. So that is why we have these buildings. He was scared. And so Masada, it was definitely a big fortress, a impenetrable fortress. And it's why the Romans had such a hard time conquering it. And one of the things we'll see is the ramp that they built to get up to it is still there. And those are some of the things that were interesting. A lot of times what the Romans would do if they wanted to conquer an area, they didn't always go in and just, bull it, take a frontal attack and go get it. A lot of times they would just surround it, build a wall and starve them out. They couldn't do that with Masada. Masada, when Herod built Masada, it is estimated that he had enough food. One of the quotes that I read was enough food for 10,000 people to last 10 years. He had storage houses, still there, so the walls are still there. He had storage houses that were just loaded with dried foods. And then this thing, it's 1,000 feet up, and he had topsoil brought up the mountain. Can you imagine being the slave having to do all this? He brought topsoil up, and he had gardens planted up on the top. And then you'll see a little bit, as best I could get for the pictures, he had a water system set up, an aqueduct system that would come around the side of the mountain and go into caves. And in those caves, they would dump into these cisterns that he had hewn out. You know what I'm saying? Again, the estimation when Rome said, you need to come down, we can wait you out, they laughed at him. The zealots laughed because they had 40,000 cubic feet of water. I didn't understand what that meant. So I said cubic feet, it may be cubic meters. When I did the translation for what I was reading, it came up to about 300,000 gallons of water were stored in their cisterns. They had enough water to go a while. So they could have lasted years. And on top of that, you're going to see they had a gorgeous view. It was just nice. It really is nice up there. And that's now that the Dead Sea is receding and you've got this barren land. I can imagine it was even prettier at that point in time. So that's a little bit of history with what Masada is. Now, I hesitated a lot. I hesitated even showing you this. I hesitated taking the time to look at this because Masada is nowhere listed in the Bible. There's no biblical event, if you will, that really occurred here. Things occurred all around it. The Zealots took Masada in 66 AD. So they went, conquered it, they took over, and then in 70 is when we had the temple being destroyed, and Jesus said, this is going to be destroyed. 70 AD is when it happened, and then Rome finally got to Masada. There were several areas that Zealots held out, but Rome, this was the last one. They got to Masada, around 73, 74, somewhere in there. Josephus tells us, the historian, that 967 people died on top of this mountain. It was by suicide. Basically, they died by suicide. Some have disputed that. There's one report that says 2 people survived, a woman and a child hid out. So when they did all of the killing to have everybody die, they were hidden, and then they came out and surrendered to the Romans. And that's how the stories got told, etc. But that's just some of the background of Masada. So what I want to do is take you through these pictures, show you what the area is like, what it's like up there, because it was extremely impressive. There are some truths we can learn. Some of them are more principle oriented. Again, nothing in the scriptures that refer to this place. So again, that was my hesitancy with showing it to you. So let's go ahead and just go through some of these real quick. This is from the road. You can see the reflection from inside the bus. That's where I'm taking this from. But this thing just sticks up about 1,000 feet above the Dead Sea. Now, the Dead Sea, I just forgot. I want to say 1,400 feet below sea level. So this is not even up to sea level. It's big. This is a huge thing. And you can see the cliffs go straight up as you get up close to it. Now, what we're going to see, if you look right there, you see that you got this one knob, and then a second one, and then a third one. Those were Herod's, those are the terraces for his palace, or one of his palaces up there. He had a bedroom right there, and then there was a library, there was like a ballroom. He had all of this gorgeous, but from up here, he had the view of all of this area. And right now it looks dead, but we'll see more. It is dead. But back then, I would say it was probably a lot prettier. So that gives you an idea. That's what Masada is. Now, let's see. Let's go here.
Looks like a volcano or something. Like
Oh, it's definitely solid up top. And it is totally solid. So and I think one of my most impressive things you're going to see is how much original is left. Yes.
Like the big rock structure is like a mountain, a flat top mountain.
This is a flat top mountain.
The buildings are just.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, so they didn't build the mountain, they built.
Oh, no.
That's what she was asking, like.
I misunderstood that. Thank you for clarifying it. One of the things that confused me, and we'll see that, is how do you get supplies up to the top of this place to build everything? And what they did was really, again, it was smart. They would dig into this rock that was up here. This is just a model. They would dig into the rock, pull out chunks of rock, and use those to build with. That would leave cisterns. Perfect place to put water. And it was ingenious how they did this. But this is the model. I believe this was down below before. Yeah, this was below before we went up. And some of the things they were trying to show with this, you can't see it from this angle. One of them is the water would be diverted, and it would come along the edges of this in aqueducts, and it would go inside. How they managed to get the tunnels going inside into the cisterns, they were brilliant. They knew what they were doing. But this is kind of what it's like. And the model doesn't show it as well. You'll be able to see it better as we get up top. Okay, again, just a picture. This is, you remember I showed you the terraces where his bedroom and the other stuff was. This is what it looked like. His bedroom was up here. Then they would have. That helping?
The top part was up on top of the ceiling, so I just had to pull.
Oh, okay, thank you. Keep doing it. Then it would come down. He had an outside stairwell that came down to the second layer, and then down to this one. This is what it looked like when they first started doing the excavations, and they found a lot. And but there is where one of the aqueducts came through, and there's caves over here where it went in. But they had swimming pools up here. It was just amazing at how much luxury he built in. So to get up, you take a trolley car. Now, I wanted to go on this trail and I wanted to walk it, but because I didn't have my luggage and I didn't have my hat, I was not allowed to walk. You had to have a hat to walk up, and it's hot. And so I didn't get to go up or walk up. So these are the trolley cars that took us up. So it gives you an idea of what it was like. Okay, I'm not hearing. Multi, where is, there it is. Okay, I need to go this way. When I try to do that backwards, for some reason, this does not work in my head right. Okay, here we go. You could see the guys below that were walking, so we were making strange noises. I think I was trying to do something. That's why I advanced it really quick, as I said, this isn't working. And I didn't want to play that for you. So this is going up, and this gives you an idea of what it's like right now. This is the Dead Sea over here. And notice all this land. This all used to be under the Dead Sea. So they've been desalinating it, taking all this water away, and it just keeps receding. But you can't see it as good, but all of this out through here, it's these caverns. These, if you can't drive across it, if you walk across it, it gives way sometimes. It's very dangerous. And so this whole area is just, it's a no man's land.
And it's salted, so nothing grows there, right?
Exactly. And right down, as you go further south, is where Sodom and Gomorrah were. And it's just, it's really, so I mean, God destroyed this whole area. And this just shows, this area makes me think of the judgment with Sodom and Gomorrah, because they were a little bit further south. When God curses something, it's hopeless. And I'm thankful that he redeems us, and he allows us to come to him. But it's just now it's a very barren area. Now, one of the things we're going to see at the end, from right now, it just looks like scratches in the dirt. Right there is a Roman outpost. He had, I'm not sure if that came when the Romans came to take it back. I don't think so. I'm pretty sure these were there from when he had the palace, and he had Roman outposts all around there to protect him. So this is just one of the Roman outposts. We'll see it at the very end. Again, it looks like it's just scratched out of the dirt. It's probably about this tall, the wall all the way around it. So it's a neat find to be able to see those. Same thing. This is as we were getting up close to the top. You can see the more of the distance. What's the word?
Elevation.
You can see it. Perspective, you can tell a little bit more as you see this close. You can tell how far away something else is. I can't think of my word, I'm sorry. And there's another one of these Roman outposts. Okay, so here, once you get up off of this car, you can see that, I mean, obviously that's new, but right there is one of these aqueduct systems. And it flows around, everything's just gravity fed, but you can see where if you were in this, here's the wall, and you were the defender, you've got to, as an attacker, you've got to go up this to get into this. You're not going to do it. All they've got to do really is throw rocks at you. You're going down. Exactly. You're fighting like crazy just to hold on. This was an impenetrable fortress. Well, pretty much. So this was what the rockway or the walkway used to be like. This was the original. It went around where they could get back up. There's your aqueduct system that was going through. It was an amazing sight. There's the aqueducts. And I think, yeah, same thing there. Okay, so this is up on top. Now, some of the things you're gonna be seeing here again is you've got the Dead Sea out here and this wall coming around. There's just no way to sneak up. There's no way to come get them. And these walls, keep in mind, this held at the time that the Jews were there, 1,000 people, and they had room to spare. There was more soldiers up there when Herod owned it. So these walls had rooms for your commanders, room for your, there's more of it. There was just multiple rooms to be storing items in. Now, this one I like because you can see, again, the perspective here, but the guide here, it just shows you the distance, how far away these people are. And this wall that's left, I believe that was later on turned into a Byzantine church. And so people were still going up there, but that just shows you what this area was like and how large it was and what he had done.
I'm glad we don't have to climb up like that to go to church.
Oh, I am too. It's helicopter time. Don't remember what that was.
What's the closest big city to that?
That's one of the things that's interesting too. Big question was closest big city. Everything in Jerusalem is close. So keep this, just see if this makes, as far as perspective, Jerusalem is only 40 miles away. So close to this is En-Gedi, where David had his getaway. So David only had to go a couple of days walk to get from Bethlehem, Jerusalem, all the way down here to En-Gedi, to the Dead Sea area. Everything really is close. Now, if you go very tip to very tip, it's still what size of New Jersey?
I mean, it's close to Jerusalem, I mean, all of Jerusalem.
Exactly. Exactly. So this is very close to Jerusalem, as far as the major city. I did ask as we were at the Dead Sea, because I remember asking somebody, where do people live? There's nothing around here. And they have little Bedouin communities where people will live and they'll come in to work at the motels. But, and it's all tourist related. But that's a good question. This one, again, this is where they're doing some of the excavations. I don't remember what this one was. I apologize. Same thing, same picture. It's right where they were doing the excavations with that Byzantine church in the back. Okay, the commander's residence. This is where his residence was. And again, you can just see, one of the things I'm going to be pointing out in the video clip in a minute, you can see the rock here, but notice right there how smooth this is for the rock. That is the line. They took limestone that was up there and made a plaster out of it. That is 2,000 plus year old plaster.
Wow.
And that's not the best. You're going to see some better ones in a minute. It's lasted 2,000 years. Okay. The main entrance to the square where they would have their meetings. It was just a large area. It's a very open area where they had, meetings and this congregation things. There is some of that plaster.
Wow.
That is it amazed me to think 2,000 years old is how long that's lasted. And let's see, I think this will talk about it.
The black line is the one above is recreated, below the original. The plaster, the limestone plaster, original 29 of these storerooms. Filled with everything, food, weapons, appear on top of Masada.
So 29 of those rooms, and these rooms, I'm trying to describe it here, but it's like going to the end of the hallway, all the way up here, with this a little bit wider than the hallway, but it's loaded with food and weapons and everything they needed. It could handle a lot of people. There you go.
tons of
Did you understand all of that? When they were up there excavating, they found a pay stub that a soldier had left up there from 80 AD. So they had his pay stub that they dug up, and that was neat. The size of the storms is one of the things I was mentioning, how many there were. And where we're heading right now is the northern palace. This mountain was big enough at the top to have two palaces. One on the west, one on the north, and this is the north. The north is the one that had the three-tiered. So that was the North Palace. So this is what it looked like, or what they recreated it to be. And it is amazing how good of condition this is in still. A lot of, I mean, it's gone, parts are gone, but part of these pillars are still there. Then they had stairways down to this area. And here is where they talk about the things that he could see. There was a private bathhouse in here, a library, a balcony, rooms, reception and banquet halls. All of this was in this guy's palace on the side of this mountain. So they had to go through and put all these retaining walls up and then build on top of it. And it was a beautiful place that they had built. This one, again, is just the view from his bedroom. This is what he would have seen as he woke up. And it was a nice one. This one is, again, the model of where everything was on the side of this mountain, and then going up Masada on the cliffs. And in the back, again, you see this limestone. And it floors me to think 2,000-year-old limestone that has made it and didn't get trashed on the top of that mountain.
Okay, this is the top. There's some of these great floors that they put here. This would have been show you this. Here is the bedroom that we're in right now. These columns are those columns, and it looks over in his bedroom. He could look out and see the Dead Sea. He could see the Jordan. He could see all of this. That whole valley. This side, as you go over this green, oh, the lower levels, no, not the more. Here we have one of his military outfits. Back here.
See the perspective?
We have built up west side to the end of this. That's what western panel is, a couple houses up here. It's one of the only places where they found the Roman. I think you can see right there, the wall that goes across that part of the Roman wall and guarded the Romans place. We'll do
That later. So that just gives you an idea. Oh. Okay, that's the break down at the second layer and third layer. That's what I'm trying to say. It's too much. So you got the second and third layer for the library and the social hall is vertical. And then it's overlooking. And that's going to happen a couple of times with the wind. There was just no getting around it. And I couldn't tell until I brought it back in. So this is just the panoramic, just so you can see. This is what the guy could see as he wakes up. And it was just amazing. And the Jews took it over. So upper terrace, so that's what the sleeping, where I said, here's the columns that were original. That was the sleeping area. And then looking, yeah, down again to the lower terraces. Okay, so this is looking back. This is again, these storerooms. They're everywhere. And they were very serious about having things stored up, and then people would live around the outsides. And again, protected very well. Here, you notice there's that same stuff, that plaster. They would build baths, and for the Jews, they would want a bath where the water went they could go in and come out a different way, so it would be ceremonially clean. This is just baths that the Romans had. And they would make, like, I mean, we would just take a bath, and that's what they would do. So they had those baths. There were private ones for him. That's another shot of it. So there's the main chambers. They would come out of here, and then they were in their bath. Again, swimming pools were in this place. It was not a big deal. Okay, so again, same view as a minute ago. I should have left that one out. I'm sorry. Okay, these are on the outside, just quarters where people lived, where they were finding things, where people had, soldiers had been, the Jews had been. They turned one room that they think was a stable into a synagogue. We'll see the synagogue in a little bit. But all of these rooms are on the outside, and in one of these they found Ezekiel, it's in here, Ezekiel 37, I believe it was. So they know that the scriptures were up there, but again, just areas that they're uncovering where the people were living. Here we're heading around from the northern palace down to the western palace. So it was a second one that they had up there. Okay, this is one of the cisterns. So you can notice again this ladder, how far down they dug in, getting all of these rocks taken out to go build these buildings. And so these things, you can see where they would have 300,000 gallon tanks to be able to store the water. And this is just, okay, same one. So they had the cisterns in there, and this is just where they found it. And then they're here for this tank of that, you're saying it looked like there was a ritual over here where they could get in, but this would be to try to collect water in these cisterns. So they're not sure, but they think they were could have been trying to use this one as a ritual bath, so they could get in and come out a different way. Not sure, but I was just impressed with how they had that place so able to receive the water that they wanted to receive. This was the second one they found up above that was just again a bathroom. The noise was hard. Okay, so this one you can see as you look, oh, where was it? I believe this is the aqueduct that came around, and there were caves, and I'm having trouble seeing them. There were caves lower where the water was going in to get into these cisterns. Found these cisterns. Go in. There's. I don't understand how they could get the cisterns so deep to hold water and how the water pressure could fill it up. They did it. They had hundreds of thousands of gallons of water.
This.
We already had that one built.
They transformed one of the rooms. From what they think, they transformed it into a synagogue. He could have had a synagogue up there, but you notice a lot of the times you see this, that black line, everything below that's original, everything above that is added to help recreate, where they found pieces laying around and they tried to recreate it. So a lot of that pretty plaster is original. Okay, that's just describing the synagogue.
In these rooms, found Ezekiel 37. zealots had been reading. Down on the scroll here. Some more of this.
Should be, I don't remember.
Side rooms, big side room. Where they found Ezekiel 37, the slump back again. That area here. Basically, take back policy. Oil the country. So they bring their officers.
So they take them up there, they remind them, this is what the zealots did. You need to be that committed to Israel and you need to commit yourself to our country. That's where they swear them in. And that's very meaningful for them.
Of course, brings us down to the western, they call it the Western Palace.
Notice the size.
From up here. Back to the main palace and they get a couple of or so less than 1,000. So
We're getting close. Okay, the breaching point where they took the wall, the ramp and put it up. That's what this area is talking about.
they let the tin go through and kill everyone.
So what they did, they had that siege ramp that came up. As they got close to this gate, the Jews put an earth gate, made an extra gate layer so that the battering rams wouldn't work because it was just dirt behind it, not just wood. And once they came up, they started throwing in flame, they started burning things. And so they knew they were about to die. And so what the Jews did was they had 10 men who were professional soldiers who knew how to kill people. And they said, okay, all of you fathers, you men go in and you have to take care of your family. So the husbands had to go in and kill their families. Then all of the men came back out and those 10 went through and took all of them out. And then one of them took out 9 and then fell on his own sword. So that's how they did it. And part of the reasoning was it is unbiblical to commit suicide and they didn't want anybody to commit suicide, so they killed each other. I'm not sure what their thinking was with that, but they did. Their big thing was they did not want to go into slavery. As they were fighting, or as they were having this ramp built against them, they wouldn't fire on the workers because what the Romans did is they brought in Israeli slaves. And so if they fired against the workers, they were killing their own people. So it really put them in a bad spot. And that ramp largely got built by slave labor, which is what Rome used a lot. And that, to me, that looking at that ramp, standing above it was very sobering, knowing that they were watching that thing get built up, knowing they're coming. And it lasted for years, but they eventually, not years, months.
It's all it took to build the siege ramp.
It was, they think it was around 4 or 5 months, roughly. It was a matter of months, not years. I thought it was years, but it didn't. They built that with all slave labor. And they put it up fast, relatively speaking. So again, this is going into the Western Palace. This is one where they had more of the really nice remains. I believe that was another cistern. Okay, there's, and I'll talk about, I hope those video things help more because I knew I wouldn't remember stuff. So I wanted to put it on video, but notice this stuff here, that is every bit original. And so that plaster lasted. See, anyway. Just all of the storage, the houses and everything else they had up there. They could last forever. Again, that's just a panoramic view of the whole area. And that one is heading back down on the cable car. So as we got down towards the bottom, this is what I told you we would see later on. There's that one of the fortresses that's around it. There's what used to be a lot of Dead Sea that's receded. That's what looks like it was scratched out. You've got these rock walls that they found, some reconstructed, but that was just the Roman outpost. So that is Masada, up and down. So that gives you everything. So we've seen, my mind, we've seen a lot of interesting pictures. I like these pictures. I like knowing about what has happened in the past. That what are some things that you and I can learn from what has happened here, from what we've seen? I'll start us with this. Jesus said very clearly the temple was going to be destroyed. He said Israel is going to come under Gentile domination until the times of the Gentiles are fulfilled. And obviously, the Jews, they wanted to prevent that. They did not want to go into subservience. They wanted to fight for their freedom, and they tried, and they did a good job here. They tried really hard, and they lasted for years. But one of the things we can see very clearly is when God makes a prophecy, it's going to come true. It is going to come true. And we can take that to the bank. Jesus knows what is going to bring us happiness. He knows what's going to bring us fulfillment. And we need to follow his teaching. We need to believe what he said is true. Because it is. We need to act on that. Jesus is right. So what are some things, and again, I know it's not in scripture. That was the hard part. But what are some things that we can learn from what we've seen with these passages, with this example? Anyone? I struggled with it, but I bet it to you if you don't.
There's a lot of effort represented here in maintaining and preserving the earthly kingdom and setting up, hopes for stability and safety. Here we are looking at them 2,000 years later, and I mean, it's still impressive, but the people are dead. They're gone. The people were conquered. They were destroyed. And so it is a sobering reminder of, where we put our heart, where we set up our treasure, where moth or rust corrupt. There's not a lot of hope to place. There should be no hope that we place in this life and the things of this world and the stability that we can build around us. And we look for a better kingdom. We look for a better home and a more secure one. Build with our own devices.
Absolutely.
Reminds me of like New York City and how things I guess that's where they got the idea from.
Could be. But that point's very true. People put so much into those, so much stock into those places, they're going to rot. They're going to fall. It's not going to take a lot to do it. It's interesting when you look at the people that were on these zealots, These were God-fearing people. I'll call them that. They feared God. They went up there, they built a synagogue, they wanted to worship God. Not all of the Jews were like the Sadducees and the Pharisees, the Sanhedrin. They weren't all people who rejected. They weren't all the rebels, but it's very unfortunate that a lot of times it's the godly suffer with the godless. The leadership takes us down roads we don't agree with, we don't like, but we end up with some of the repercussions of what they decide. Well, these guys got stuck with that. And they were doing their best to be able to live a life that would be pleasing to the Lord. And yet their leadership rejected the Messiah, and Jesus said, "You're done." And they were. Someone else kind of alluded to this. No matter how good your plans may be, life's short. This is not where you look at it. And I think the older that we get, the more it's easy to see this just doesn't work. This isn't what I want to be living for. This is so short. This is not worth it. We need to live, and I think we know this, but putting feet to it can be difficult at times. We need to live moment by moment in a way that would say, I want to glorify Jesus. That's all I want to do. And this life, there's nothing here worth living for. Every one of us, I'm looking around, every one of us live in a home. But one day it's going to look like that. It's going to be leveled. And there's just going to be nothing left. And nobody's even going to come around and try to rebuild our homes. Here they rebuilt some stuff. They wanted to see what was there. We're not that important. Our stuff's going to rot. It's going to be gone. This life isn't worth living. We need to remember that. Anything else? I've got one. Anybody else got it? This is your chance. Okay, last one, and this is just an example. This is not anything major, but I appreciate the picture that we can see with this area, how Herod, he took something that was dead and barren and it's useless. He took this rock sticking up out of nowhere. He took this thing and he made it into something beautiful. He made it into a useful structure. And I'm very thankful that that is a good picture of what Jesus does for us. He takes something that's dead, that's useless, that has absolutely nothing to offer, and he makes it into something that he can be glorified by. He gives us a life. He gives us a relationship, something that was totally awful. And he makes it something beautiful and something that he loves and he uses. And for me, it was just a good picture of that. Okay. Anyone else before we stop? This will be it. Okay.